British band that writes these monster songs, and only appropriate that I would have a guest from the UK. 9:06 Coldplay clocks.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Mishal Husain is here. She's, I'm really turning the tables on you, aren't I? Yeah?
You really are, Hrishi. It's very strange for me to be on the answering the questions side of it. I don't know how I'm going to get on over the course of the next hour.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's lovely to be with you. It's great to be in Mumbai.
Royal wedding. That must have been massive. You were really the front for the BBC as far as that coverage was concerned. Talk about the feelings.
It was quite remarkable because actually quite soon after the engagement, we started to realise that this really British story had this huge global appeal. So at one point, it felt like the rest of the world was getting more excited ahead of time about the royal wedding than the British were. So I became the BBC's royal wedding presenter, and I was a little bit worried at the time because, you know, most of my work's in the newsroom.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, what is this going to do to my credibility? I'm going to be the BBC's royal wedding presenter. So I was a little bit worried about that. But as time went on, actually, it was so nice to be part of a happy story, actually, because we were in the middle of the Arab Spring, and straight after the royal wedding, actually, I ended up covering the Osama bin Laden raid in northern Pakistan. So actually, when I look back to the royal wedding, it was kind of an oasis in the middle of an extremely intense period. And, you know, just great to be part of a day that was full of pageantry and feel-good factor.
I'm just so happy that the press and the media in the UK is so responsible and has acted so responsibly in the whole, Catherine...
the pictures
thing, But unfortunately, I couldn't say the same about your neighbours in Europe. I mean, pictures of her splashed all over, invasion of her privacy. I need your thoughts on that, Mishal.
Well, actually, you're right. It was really interesting to chart the difference between the way some elements of the European press reacted and the UK press. I think, there's been... the UK press is going through a really soul-searching time. There's a big inquiry into press ethics underway at the moment, and that probably had a factor in the attitude they took. But also, I think what's really interesting about the royal family over the years is, there was a time when they might have ignored things, but actually, and it looks like this is coming from Prince William and Catherine themselves, they're just determined to set the right tone and to make it really clear how they're going to act in the future. So I think these pictures are a real watershed because, they went to court immediately. The next day, their lawyers were in court in Paris. So I think it's a really, really clear signal of don't mess with us.
Mishal Husain in conversation with me. There'll be more fun. Phil Collins, you've spent enough time in the UK. You must like him.
I do like Phil Collins. Actually, the music that you play at this time of day, really, it's taking me back a few years, and it feels like absolutely right for me. So thank you. I know you're not just playing it for me, but thank you.
Thank you so much for noticing. Yeah, an air of nostalgia takes over. It's Phil Collins with Philip Bailey. This is from the Chinese Wall album. It's Easy Lover at 9:09. Mishal Husain from the BBC is here with me. I promise you, it's just pure coincidence that I have a guest from the UK and there's so many UK acts.
You're making me feel quite at home, Hrishi.
Mishal Husain from the BBC is here with me. The Spice Girls with A Wannabe.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
You had an intruder during your live broadcast at the royal wedding. You've got to tell us about that.
Yes, it's probably on YouTube, but I've never been brave enough to watch it back. There was incredible security surrounding the royal wedding, so it was all accredited personnel, and there'd been this big broadcast compound built opposite Buckingham Palace. And the stars of this broadcast compound were the American broadcasters, actually, because even compared to the BBC, they had basically brought their entire setup with them. So in the middle of this very secure compound on the morning of the wedding, I was live, and we were doing the whole sort of pre-wedding run-up. And out of the corner of my eye, as I was doing a live hit, I sort of see someone walking towards me, and I kind of assume that they're just going to walk past. And then they walk up and stand right next to me, and I turn around, and it's this guy in kind of like a fancy dress type, white naval type costume. And he sort of says hello and produces this Kate Middleton style Diana ring and asks me to marry him live on air. And it was kind of heart-stopping because it was just some guy who'd managed to get through all the security. But, we were all really shocked because of all the places, and I've reported for some pretty tough places around the world. The last place you expect to have an intruder in your live shot is at the royal wedding.
And somebody wants to propose to you.
Yes, lucky me. Highlight.
I want to know how your partner would have reacted to that.
I don't think he saw him as a threat. Some guy from Ukraine in fancy dress costume.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, now you're going to St. Xavier's College just after this. What are you?
You
going
know
to
it
talk
well,
about?
right?
Yes, of course. My God, I've spent more time in the woods than I did in the classroom. But you'll see what I'm talking about when you go there, where people hang out and things like that. Yeah. So, what are you going to talk about?
Well, I'm really looking forward to it because I know that it's the university in this city, and I'm obviously it's produced some great alumni. Some sitting very close to me right now.
You'd like to believe.
And so I'm going to talk to students about this journey that I did across the Arab world last year, because I did a documentary on the young activists of the Arab Spring. You know, essentially like the stories behind the scenes in Tahrir Square. So how did all of those thousands of people get mobilized to be there? And so we went to 5 countries, and it was part of a series that ran at the end of last year, very soon after Gaddafi fell. And it was a really momentous journey for me because we went to Libya and, you know, all sorts of countries that are, you know, still in turmoil. So I'm going to be talking about that experience, and actually I'm really interested to hear what, you know, today's Xavierites have to say about it, because the title of our documentary was How Facebook Changed the World. Because, you know, Hrishi, the first protests in Tunisia, if they hadn't got on Facebook, they would probably never have got out. So I'm not sure Facebook has changed the world, but I don't doubt that Facebook had a crucial role in the start of the Arab revolutions, and therefore was part of the knock-on effect. So I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts.
I've got to tell you that social media certainly has changed our world at the radio station. No more hoardings, no more spending money on big advertising. We just put out posts.
And you're more in touch with your listeners, I'm sure, right, than before?
And when you put out a tweet with a beautiful lady like Mishal Husain, you are bound to get listeners, or you hope. This is such a cliched song for a Monday. The Bangles, Manic Monday, 9:20. Mishal Husain from the BBC. More conversation with her. Don't go anywhere.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Mishal Husain from the BBC is here. She's on a one-day trip to Mumbai city, and lots of exciting things lined up on her plate. You won. You were what, third prize winner at Celebrity Mastermind. Does that mean you got great? You got like great grades in school and college? Did you?
Well, no. I mean, I did fine in school and college, but you know, Mastermind is one of those programs that is it is quite scary to appear on, because however much you feel you must, you know, you're kind of in command of what you do on a day-to-day level, you suddenly have to really research your specialist subject. So I was desperately trying to think, what is my specialist subject going to be? And in the end, I chose the Narnia books, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and the rest of those, because I just thought, well, if I'm going to spend loads of time doing something, I'd rather it was something that was quite fun. And it was quite nice, because now I started reading them to my kids, so it was kind of like the warm-up act to that. So it was less painful than it could have been.
I think you're just being very modest. I googled you. You have a law degree from Cambridge.
I do. I have a background in law. You know how it is, Hrishi? I mean, it was probably the same for you, right? I was growing up, parents are Asian, my parents are from Pakistan, and you kind of had to do something vocational or professional. So I first they wanted me to be a doctor, and I was like, no. And then I thought engineering, no. Law, I thought, okay, you know, here's something that, you know, they can't really argue with. I mean, my parents are very nice people. It's not like, but, you know, they you know, it was clear that, you know, I was going to not be able to slack and sit around on a beach or anything. So I went to Cambridge to do law. I can't say I loved my degree, but it's been a really useful grounding, actually, because even though I went into journalism, you know, quite a lot of the time in the newsroom we're talking about a court case, a crime, a war crimes trial, you know, a human rights issue. So I specialised in human rights law, and it's come in really handy. And also, you know, the nature of tough debate on air, legal skills come in handy for that kind of thing, because a lot of the times it's an adversarial scenario, you know, especially if you're talking to a tough guest. So, you know, I think actually looking back, it's not a bad fit for what I've ended up doing.
We always talk down to our parents and say, my God, why did you make us study this? Or because of you, and things like that. And then you realize the value of it much later. I, for example, I did economics in my undergrad before I went on to do film, television, radio production. And I was like, man, why am I sitting myself through this? And obviously there's a whole blame game. But today, when I speak to economic advisors on the show, or I'm, you know, just talking finance, I realized, my God, what a blessing that was.
Yeah, there's a certain rigor in degrees like that helps. But can I tell you that just when you think that you're so sort of liberated compared to your parents, I found myself sitting with my husband the other day, and we have 3 sons, and we were talking about what they might do when they grew up, and we found ourselves saying it would be nice if even one of them became a doctor. And then we looked at each other, we thought, what has happened to us? We are so not progressive at all. The same old things come round and again and again.
Up ahead, I'm going to talk to Mishal about who she enjoyed interviewing the most, and really the who's who of the European and world society in there amongst the people that she's interviewed. Belfast, Boney M, 9:32 in the morning.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Mishal Husain from the BBC is here with me, and let's talk Olympics. It was a massive year for us, we weren't expecting to do as well, and all of a sudden, hey presto, we get these 4 medals. That coverage, I would reckon this is what, your second Olympics? You did Beijing too.
Yes, Beijing as well. But London was, I realised when the Olympics began in London that there is something really different about the Olympics coming to your own home turf. Obviously, your level of access is completely different, what you can do, but also there's a huge boost that you get from seeing the whole Olympic circus come to town. But for me, I was on air every day for like a 3-week period, so it really took over my life. But it was actually hearing the stories of those Olympians one after another. You realise that there are these canoeists who are breaking the ice in the winter and getting on the river, and there's people who are training day in and day out. I interviewed this American runner who was born in Sudan. He said to me that he had a really tough upbringing in Sudan, ended up in a refugee camp in Kenya, and he said, I started running to distract myself from hunger.
Ouch.
And, someone says something like that to you, and you just think there are no shortcuts to getting to the Olympics, actually. And, when I saw Mary Com fight against Nicola Adams, that was such an amazing moment. And, she has an amazing story, and I really hope it's not the last that, we've seen of her. But actually, for the interview show that I just recorded in Singapore, we had Abhinav Bindra on, whose gold was such a milestone for India. And
also
it's great
so
to
eloquent.
see.
He's so eloquent, yeah.
And it's great to see the way that actually India's built on that this time around. Bigger team than ever before. So fingers crossed for Rio. You
have interviewed Paul McCartney, Armitage, the whole world. I mean, who have you not interviewed?
Well, I don't know about the whole world. Well,
Paulo Coelho is actually my favorite, writer.
Isn't he great? And he's such a he's a wonderful person as well. And talk about someone having huge reach. His books translated into so many languages. People are sitting in Iran loving Paulo Coelho's work, and he's an amazing guy. Paul McCartney was really great to interview because I was with this camera crew, and there were a couple of really sort of tough BBC cameramen who've seen war zones and all the rest, and the type who you wouldn't think would ever get starstruck. And at the end, everyone's pulling out pieces of paper and saying, "Can you sign this for my mother?" So it was like interviewing someone like him is like reduces everyone to the same level of fan.
And Saif Ali Khan, he's been on the show many times, but your impressions of him, so well spoken, and also
very well spoken.
England educated,
yeah, very well spoken. And I think I think that he has actually charted a really good path between the commercial and the critically interesting films. And I really look forward to following his career in the future. I'd love him to be a guest on Mishal Husain Meets. Maybe you can put in a good word, Hrishi, next time you see him.
Has he seen you more than once? Why would he say no to you?
Well, I shall keep my fingers crossed on that front.
The lovely Mishal Husain is here with me. One last leg of a conversation with her up ahead. This is Michael Jackson. Wanna be starting something, 9:47.
This is Good Morning Mumbai, and you're with Hrishi K.
Radio 1.
Mishal Husain from the BBC is my guest this morning. I just thought of a contest question. Mishal has a new show. What is it called? Okay, Mishal Husain's show on BBC. One space, the name of the show, your name, type that and send it to 53650. 53650. We'll give you a 1,000 rupee eating voucher at Ruby's Bar and Grill at Malad or at Nariman Point. Interesting question, yeah? People should know.
my news show, absolutely. We haven't mentioned its name yet. The interview show is called Mishal Husain Meets, so it's not that one, but the name of the show on BBC World News on 6:30 p.m. on weekdays.
That's enough of a hint now. Okay, here we go now with the Gandhi series. The father of the nation, 2nd of October is his birthday, so, leading up to that, you did a 3-part series on him. That must have been fascinating.
It was one of the most rewarding broadcasting experiences I've had. We filmed for about 5 months. I made 3 different trips to India, and it had a personal resonance for me because, mine is a partition family. So my mother's family went from UP to Pakistan in 1947. So, the events that were the centerpiece of Gandhi's life, had a distinct impact on my own family. So we filmed all around India, and particularly we filmed here, and then we went all the way down the route of the Salt March all the way to Dandi. And honestly, can I tell you, Hrishi, the route of the Salt March is not easy today in a car. So what it was like for Gandhi in his time, it
walking
is
at his brisk pace,
quite something. And we saw the salt flats and the workers and the way that they still labour on the salt flats today. So it was a really momentous part of my filming career, and really there were so many wonderful moments along the way where people really reminded us of how Gandhi's teachings are still relevant, and there is so much that I think all of us as human beings should take away from his life.
What are you going to take away from this trip to Mumbai? This is the first time you've come here not to film, isn't it? It's
Yes.
like a one day of not being on the show.
Yes, which is very nice, and I get a completely different feel from it. I mean, I can sit here where you're doing all of the work, and I can just sit back, relax, drink coffee, and answer the questions. And also, we'll obviously be going to talk at Xavier's College later on. So yeah, it's great to have a sort of sense of the pulse of the city. India is such an exciting place to be, so I always love coming here. And and on my news shows, there are so many developments here that we are absolutely wanting to just bring right to the heart of what we do. So I'll be back in the newsroom next Monday, back to the regular grind of things. Yeah,
and time to bring the 4 boys, which is your partner, and your 3 boys for a holiday to India.
That would be great. Actually, the journey that I would love to do one day with them, and who knows, maybe it'll be a filming journey as well, is I'd love to go back to the homes that my grandparents left behind. So that would be fascinating to do that one day. Lucknow and Aligarh, I've never been there.
Oh wow!
So I did try and visit the house that they lived in
tunde kebabs
Delhi.
in Lucknow are to die for. So
I think that might be part of the attraction to go back. The Rumali roti, the huge.
Of course.
Yeah, so yeah, that's how I'm going to entice the children anyway. But yeah, I have I count my blessings. I'm really lucky to have a fantastic family life, and and I just try and keep it all together with my on-air life. Particularly with quite a lot of travel, which is sometimes a bit challenging. Yeah. But I still think a day in the newsroom is easier than a day at home looking after my 3 boys.
I must send them this recording. Mishal Husain, it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have you on 94.3 Radio 1. Thank you for making the trudge.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Hrishi.